Hey,
What's going on?
it is time for Indiana Rocks. Oh, sorry, got a little carried away there. Hello, everybody. Yes, indeed, it is Indiana Rocks, and we are excited about this particular episode because we're going to have Steve Sybesma join us.
Yes, that's great. Wonderful.
It's we've been anticipating, we've been looking forward to this. Without further ado, let's bring him on. Let's make sure we're. Hi, Steve.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Great, man. Thank you so much for giving us some time. Mel has a couple of things to say before we get started.
Okay.
Yeah, you remember me from
Yeah.
Primeval?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while, but I really wanted to, I appreciated that so much because, I'm still playing music, and
I'm still promoting it.
yeah,
He played last night, playing tomorrow night.
yeah,
So
yeah, and I always think of you whenever I hear something going on out at Deer Creek. And I took my daughter to see New Kids on the Block.
he's a big New Kids on the Block fan. For those
Yeah.
who don't know.
Well, I took my daughter too, but that was like 25 years ago, I think. 20 years
Yeah, but you did something special. Go ahead.
Yeah, between the time that she got her tickets and then the day of the show, she had an accident, and she was in a body cast from her tips of her toes to her neck.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
But anyway, she wanted to go, so we went up to the box office and explained what happened. And you came out and wheeled her up. People was moving out of the way, and you took her all the way up and sat her at the end of the row, right up by the stage, and you let me sit right next to her, and she was in her wheelchair.
Okay.
And that made her day. I mean, a lot more than that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that a lot. It was wonderful. Thank you very much.
All right, you're a little emotional there.
Yeah.
you touched lives that you weren't even aware of with your, with going above and beyond. And you say you're still promoting.
Yeah, I've got Def Leppard next week in Puerto Rico. Yeah.
That's insane.
Wow.
That's insane.
That is so cool.
So let's come back. This is Indiana Rocks for those that don't know. And we're about the history of Indiana and the future of live music, because we are concerned that live music is in danger of going the way of the dinosaur because of AI, because of robotics, because of just changes in humanity, because of not having good music to entice people to come out. Are we out of the box, or are we legitimate to be concerned?
Well, I don't share the same concerns because I see the live music business like so much stronger than it used to be. And it's
Really,
if you look at, I mean, there's just so many shows, there's so many new artists that are up and coming, and I used to think, well, that when the 70s artists got old and retired, that we wouldn't have anything, but there's so much new music out there.
but the 70s artists are still some of the biggest draws with the Stones and AC/DC.
I used to say in the 80s, what are the Rolling Stones going to do when they're 50 years old?
Yeah.
Now they're 80. still doing it.
I went in 1989. I drove all the way to Pontiac, Michigan to see the Stones on their farewell tour to the United States.
Yeah.
And I've seen them 6 times since then.
Right. Same thing
So,
with Kiss, right?
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh.
How many farewell tours have they had? I can't
Oh.
count it.
Oh yeah.
Well, let's go back again. Let's bring it back to Indiana.
Okay.
The names Faith Band, Roadmaster, Light. Those were some of the bands that you worked with early on here in Indiana.
Yeah, that was yeah. So Dave Lucas and Joe Halderman were my partners, and Joe Halderman and Terry Barnes kind of headed up our management company, but Dave and I were partners, and so we managed both of those bands. And we got them record deals on Mercury and maybe some other record label. I can't remember right now, but I remember spending many nights in the patio in the '70s, having the time of my life in there and watching the bands and stuff. So
Great place.
yeah.
The patio was
Iconic.
iconic spot. Yeah,
It was special.
The patio, the Vogue on the north side, the Razzmatazz on the west side, Bentley's on the south side, the Enterprise on the east side. Those were indie rocked
Yeah.
in that time period.
Yeah.
Can do you have any memories of the guys in Roadmaster, the guys in Faith, because they have a ton of fans still around, Steve?
Oh yeah, I'm still good friends with the survivors, obviously.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you see him at funerals, but the guys they're still at it too, So, yeah. So in one form or another, either doing something in music.
Dave Barnes is still playing.
Barnesy's still playing. I don't know how much Carl's performing anymore, but
not much, but he does a little bit, I think.
Yeah, he does. He does a little bit, and we started our very first episode was with Michael Reed, the keyboard player from Roadmaster.
Yeah, I saw him at Toby's thing, and he's still playing, of course. So
monster musicians. I don't think they get the credit for the talent that they had.
Yeah, they were so close to breaking nationally. I mean, they broke a little bit nationally, but I feel like they could have. They were almost there to be.
Yeah.
And
it wasn't because of lack of talent.
No, that's for sure.
It was just the way things worked out.
Yeah.
Sadly. All right, we're gonna go way back.
Okay.
I'm going to share something here. Let me bring it up. And can you see that?
Yeah, I can see it. That's off my that's off my website.
Indy 500 Festival of Music.
Yeah.
Talk about this a little bit, Steve.
Well, that was my very first festival. And that, I got this up and coming new band called ZZ Top to headline. And, at the time, Mark Frege was my partner. He was my partner for about, I don't know, maybe less than a year, between 73 and 74. Yeah, middle of 73 until right after we did this festival. And Mark was we had a lot of fun. Mark and I had a lot of fun. Mark owned the Karma Records.
Oh,
yeah.
So,
I was an assistant manager at the Karma Records at Post in Washington for about 9 months, and I got fired because of an interview I gave on TV when what were they called? It was a rap group. they were coming to town, and I'll remember the name. But go ahead, Karma Records. Got there's
Yeah.
a
So Mark and I, I had a few partners when I first got started in, 72, and then, and then, Mark and I were friends. I brought him in, and it was a lot of fun because Mark, obviously, he knew what would sell and he knew what was kind of cool music. I mean, he was a music nut, you know, he just like knew all these bands, and like the lineup we had on this festival was like a pretty eclectic, really, a great lineup, right? Kansas, when they were, I'm not sure, did Kansas make it to that? I'm not sure if they,
Renaissance and Kansas both didn't make it. That's
yeah, okay. Well, we booked
we
them.
got in there.
Yeah, I booked them, but they didn't make it. But that was the way things were in the, in the early '70s. Sometimes they made it, and sometimes they didn't. But
and the bands that had guaranteed money are the ones that were more than likely to be guaranteed to make it, because they
Yeah.
knew they were going to get something regardless. The others, it was like, hey, you show up, you'll get paid. You don't show up,
Yeah. Why
Yeah.
wouldn't you want to?
why? I mean, well, of course, but it
Well,
happened. The point being, it happened. It this isn't a one-off. It happened all the time in festivals that bands didn't show up that weren't guaranteed. Sometimes that were guaranteed.
yeah, well, Billy Cobham, I loved Billy Cobham at the time. He was like
He's my hero.
had a
He's
great
Mel-
show.
Mel's hero.
Yeah, yeah,
He was a machine. Still
Yeah.
is.
right. And
Crazy
yeah,
fan.
yeah. So we did close to 6,000 people. That was a big show for me, and I don't remember if I made money or not on that show, but I know it was a great experience, and I think it was because of that that Dave Lucas called me after that, maybe a month after, and asked me if I wanted to join Sunshine, and that's kind of the start of that chapter, and
Yeah.
I joined Sunshine maybe July of '74. Yeah, that was about right, somewhere in there. Yeah,
This is right after that.
yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Well, Steve, do you remember we did an episode on the Bull Island Festival?
Yeah.
Do you remember that going on down there?
Yeah, I remember it. I did not go to it, but
Right.
it was a big deal. It was a big mess.
Yeah.
So,
But did the reason I bring it up, did that have any impact on you being able to get this off the ground at Busch Stadium in Indianapolis? Were there naysayers that were like, oh, we just saw what happened down there by Evansville, we don't want to bring that here?
yeah, that wasn't. I don't remember that being an issue at all. I think,
Okay.
I wasn't the first festival at Busch Stadium, so they kind of were used to doing it, and they've done it. They had done a couple before me, and they're in my history there, but I can't remember them right off the hand. But I think guy out of Cleveland brought one in. I think Roger Abramson did one, and then Dave and Joe did one before we were partners there.
Well, I want to pull something else up off the site here. This right here.
Yeah.
If you can see that. This is the guy right here in the middle.
Yeah.
That's the guy sitting right beside me.
You look a little bit different.
Just a tad.
Yeah, that's what time does to us, right?
It does. It does indeed. It does indeed. So, what else do you have? What else do you have going on? You said you're
well, I'm partners with. So in 1985, Sunshine Promotions started doing shows in Puerto Rico. So from '85 to 2000, when I resigned from. After we sold the company, and I worked for it was Clear Channel right before Live Nation, before that turned into Live Nation, and so from those years we did a lot of shows in Puerto Rico, and the we brought in a young partner in Puerto Rico. His name's Jose Dueno. And so when I went to China, I told Jose, I said, look, I said, you don't need me anymore. You can do this on your own. So he just continued. He's the largest promoter in Puerto Rico and has been now since '85. So for 40 years. And he brought me back in 5 years ago because he's busy, and I was happy to come in and help. And so we've done a bunch of shows. We just sold out Toto and in November, and we do Latin shows too, of course. And we did a Latin show called Mon Laferte and sold that out. We had Incubus in February, sold that out. And we've got Def Leppard coming up, Avenged Sevenfold, and we're also doing. We've done in 2023. We did a reggaeton tour with an artist called Jay Wheeler, and we sold out 4 Coliseum shows in 60,000 tickets in Puerto Rico, and then we brought them to the U.S. and played Miami and Orlando and New York and a bunch of cities, and took them to South America, and actually took them to. So I did my first show in Spain. We did a show in Spain, in Madrid, and Barcelona. So that was 23, and this year we've got a new reggaeton artist called Bryant Myers, and we're starting the tour in Puerto Rico in November, and then we're doing Miami and. Some of the same cities, Miami, Orlando, Reading in Pennsylvania has a heavy Puerto Rican population. And so that's what I'm doing. And I'm also working on bringing All In back to Indianapolis in 2026. So we'll see if that happens.
Nice.
We were hoping to have it this year, but it's not going to happen this year. So yeah.
The perception in Indiana was always, Sunshine Promotions is just in Indiana. People are going to be like, wait a minute, you guys were promoting in Puerto Rico all this time? And, people didn't realize how big Sunshine Promotions had become. Well, and before I forget, for those that don't know, reggaeton, can you explain what genre?
I guess it's a Puerto Rican. It's kind of it's kind of a rap, but it's not really rap. It's
it's a unique style.
Yeah, it's a unique style. Bad Bunny is reggaeton. So everybody knows Bad Bunny. So it's that kind of music, right? So yeah. So So in the 70s we were Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, and then in the early 80s we opened an office in West Virginia, and we were doing Virginia and Atlanta and Las Vegas, and we were all over the United States. We were the top 10 concert promoters in the U.S. for some years.
Decades.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we appreciate your time, and we know how busy you are, and we just wanted the opportunity to thank you for bringing all the bands that you did bring here. I can't count the number of times I've been to an event that is brought to you by Sunshine Promotions.
Oh, yeah. Right.
No.
Well, I'm a lucky guy to be able to have done this all my life and still be able to do it. Still, I'm very lucky. I remember things like when we did AC/DC. They seemed to have the most powerful start of any show. When they went on stage, I remember that those GA floors crushing those barricades before we had Mojo barricades, and that plywood just bending, and I'm scared to death it's going to break, but we made it through all those kind of dangerous situations. But the energy on those shows was amazing.
We'll end with this. Did you have a major failure? Did you have something that
no, I don't think so. We were fortunate.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're pretty fortunate. Done about I close to 10,000 shows, so I don't know,
Wow.
between here and there and everywhere. So, um, yeah, I don't think, I mean, of course we had good shows and bad shows, but, the one thing that was like, amazing to me is, I started in 1972. 3 years later, and I'm 25 years old, in 75, and we got the book The Rolling Stones as a 3 year. We're booking the biggest band in the world, and we did Bloomington at the basketball arena there, and then we got to add the Freedom Hall show in Louisville. And after we did those two shows, it really was a big boost to our company, because we'd say, why would you book the show to our competitor? We're the ones that did the Stones.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
anyway, so I've been lucky to have a great career, and just lucky to do this business all my life.
Yeah.
Well, Steve, we appreciate you very much. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, well,
Talk to you again, man.
thanks for inviting me.
All right. Well, hey, you got an open invitation, and if something big happens in the music business, we might be reaching out and saying, "Hey, Steve, we need your opinion on this."
Okay, well, I'm happy to get on a call with you.
We appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, guys. See you.
Appreciate you.
Bye.